All right, so we have a really important episode of Our Road to Camelot today. I'm going to be getting into one of the dirty jobs that you got to do as an RV owner. Hopefully you don't have to, but in this case, we're going to be checking it out. So we'll get into it right after this. All right, so we've had some problems over the last month with the black tank valve. And what's happening is it was first started just to be sticky. There would be a slight leak of liquid coming through the valve. Now, unfortunately, the entire valve is not functioning. All right, I tried to order a twist valve that would go onto our flush tank, and they do make a twist valve that would hook right onto that, and then you can have a secondary valve. But the problem that I ran into is that Valtaire apparently stopped manufacturing these temporarily. I'm hoping temporary, but I have not been able to get one anywhere. Amazon, any online sources, everybody's out of this thing. So I got to be able to empty and flush the tank to be able to work on the valve. So I tried to look in the undercarriage, and if you can see from the undercarriage, it's completely sealed. There's a pull over there that is for our galley, but that's not the problem. So it's that main pipe going up, and it has a very interesting weird little screw that holds this whole thing in. On the other side, you have a gas line that runs the whole length of the rig, so to pull that undercarriage cover down is going to be really difficult, which brought me to another thought. But what I discovered is these panels along the back wall are held in by screws. My plan today is to completely pull everything out of the understorage, out of the basement, pull that panel off, and see if I can access the tank valves from the basement. So let's go ahead and get started. It's amazing to see what all came out of the undercarriage storage. Yep. It's amazing how big it looks when you got everything out of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this panel off all the way up to that set of screws. I don't want to have to mess with lighting. It should be right behind there if I can actually get to it. So let's go ahead and get those screws out and check out what we got in front of us. Okay, the moment of truth is these are the pipes going in, but unfortunately the pipes going out are under the rig. So I do have access to a lot of things here. I have access to the hot water tank, access to the actual full heater from here, and this is all intake. That's the stairs behind there. So this was all the intake area. We got a lot of husky fur in here, so I'll probably take some time and clean this up. But unfortunately no go on getting to the pipe. So I am going to have to do a plan B to get underneath the holding tanks and find where I can actually access these things. I do know that this is the black tank back here, because that's what's coming out of the toilet, and the gray tank is up front because that's what's coming from the sink and the shower. And it looks like we also have the other holding tank down there as well, because I think that's coming from the kitchen. Not sure, but that's it for this step. Everything gets put back, and I'm going to start to figure out how to dig from underneath. I have one other option, and that is to cut into the underbelly and just flex tape it back up when I'm all done. So let's go ahead and get to that part, get everything put back. All right, so we are flash forwarding about a month from the last time you saw me talk about this, but for you it's instantaneous. We wound up having to do a little bit of prep work to get ready to do this sewer check. I'm hoping the best case scenario, the valve cable came undone, so it'll just be a simple fix there. Worst case, I'll have to replace the valve and the cable. But in order to get a thorough flush to the sewer system, we had to go out and buy this little item right here. And that is a valve tear twist on tank valve. So without that valve, we have, we can't really do a thorough flush because the black tank wasn't closing at all after a while. At this point, the cable for the black tank is kind of weird. And I was able to determine that the black tank is on the opposite side of the gray. So as I go in there, I'm just kind of following that cable around. As I go underneath the rig now to cut into it, it will be the valve the furthest away, but the way this is looking, I got a funny feeling that it is going to be at least a cable replacement, if not a whole valve replacement. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so we have clean water coming on through right now, and that is a black tank. So I feel confident now I can actually open this thing up if I had to and not be too grossed out. So all right, so that's next step, under the rig. So this is the main sewer line coming off, and it tees over with the galley tank. That's the galley over there with the valve down. So the black tank should be directly over here, and the gray tank is on this side. So if I cut in just to the left of that, I'm hoping that's where I'll find the black tank valve. Hopefully you can see this. This is kind of insulation foam. I'm guessing that it's going to be right around here. Bingo. It is right here. There's the valve right here, and it's not covered actually, but it looks like I was able to do the smallest amount of cutting. Yeah, so the cable's there. I don't see why it's not closing all the way, so I might have to cut a little bit more. Ooh, well, that was scary. Got some wires right there, but thank goodness I did not cut into these. You always got to be careful when you cut into something of what might be in there. Nope, I did not cut the wires, thank goodness. I did not cut very deep either, so I think we're good there. All right, let's check this out. I took the main mechanism apart, and I've discovered that the cable is fine. This was sticky, and I've added some lubricant. To it, and it seems to be loosening up. But I got a funny feeling that I've got some more work to do. Well, I actually did run down to get some lubricant. It was basically just the standard Camco valve lubricant. You put like 2 ounces in for normal maintenance. I poured probably about 6 ounces in. I'm gonna go ahead and test the valve one more time. And I'll probably do a few more tests before I seal up the bottom. I don't want to tape it up only to find out I have to go back in. But right now I'm hoping this will be it. We'll do one more test on the valve, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so basically where we're at this point, this is going to be a long video. Hope not. I'll see if I can cut a lot of this out. But what's happening is I am going to take the valve out and actually just clean it. I got a feeling there might be more going on. I don't think the valve is bad, but there are problems where it's not keeping the seal and it's still leaking. So next step is 4 bolts and the whole valve comes out, and that's what's next. This is the pull mechanism, so that will come off with just 2 screws. I had it off earlier. I'm going to take it off again. And then this is the valve right here, and I got to pull that whole thing out. So it's held in by just 4 screws, and I think that's all it's going to take. It should, hopefully, there's enough play in this pipe. Hopefully there's enough play in this pipe right here that it will slide right out. So there's just something going on within that valve that has to be cleaned up. It's sticking way too much, and it's still leaking. So we'll be taking that apart right now. I got it out, I lubed it up. Seems to be working. I'm going to use a little bit of this lube in there too. Alright, so I learned some very important do's and don'ts while cleaning this thing up. First of all, lubricants. Not all lubricants are created equal. I almost ruined my valve using a slide lubricant. I wound up soaking it in soapy dishwater for a while. I used some avocado oil cooking spray, and that actually did the trick. It's sliding very freely right now. It's moving very easily. I need to let it dry, and once it dries, see if it is still sliding easily. If so, we're good to put it back. So I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. I was going to just replace the valve, and I went down to the local part shop. Now, if I bought a valve that had the handle that you just pull the handle to open it, 19 bucks for the Valterra, for the same size Valterra. If you want the one that goes with a cable, you cannot buy just this valve without the cable. It's 100 bucks for this valve and a cable. So in other words, the cable is $80. I thought that was a little ridiculous. So that gave me a little bit more incentive to come in here and do what I can to clean it up and get it to slide easily on its own. So everything is working smooth right now. It's still working, sliding real nice. I got in there with a scrubber and scrubbed it out real good too. While I was at it, I went ahead and scrubbed out the grommets here, the O-rings. They are still very supple. I was considering replacing them, but once again, the valves that this particular brand, apparently you have to buy it with the whole set. Go figure. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble this whole thing, and hopefully one more test, final test. This should still work smooth. The fact that it's still holding smooth now, I think we're okay. Yeah, I think we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and crawl underneath and get this put back together. Okay, final recap. Not a job for the faint-hearted. It's done. I tested it. In fact, when I got the valve back in, it was leaking, and I also had tightened it too tight. So it wasn't working again, so I had to loosen it up, start all over, put it back in, make sure the seals were sealing, tightened it just enough. You don't want to over tighten that valve back in, and there was no leaks. I ran a couple of tests, filled the tank up twice, no leaks, and it seems to be holding. The valve's working quite easily now. So points that I learned: vegetable oil or spray cooking oil, because it is organic, it will actually work quite well once you've taken it apart to help lube it up. Do not use slide lubes. Do not use like WD-40 or petroleum products. Those will gum up the works, and it'll appear that it's working at first and then it won't work. So yeah, it has taken about 4 trips to Orangewood. One trip wasn't necessary. I accidentally dropped the gaskets out of the bag when I was there considering buying a new valve, and I had to go back to find them on the floor where I had left them. So but anyways, everything's working. Did not have to buy a new valve. I did have to take the valve out though, however, to clean it. And that's the end of this episode. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Hopefully you liked me having to get into a dirty job. I got one for Mike Rowe if he ever wants to tackle this one. World's Dirtiest Jobs. Anyways, yeah, so go ahead and give it a thumbs up and hit that notification bell so you know when we post every Sunday at 2 o'clock. So we're gonna go ahead and end it here. Safe travels. Hope to see you on the road. Keep those valves clean.